시청자 여러분 안녕하십니까. 더 리더 최남수입니다. 중동의 작은 나라 이스라엘, 혁신 DNA와 강인한 상인정신을 기반으로 대표적인 작지만 강한 강소국으로 평가받고 있습니다. 특히 아이디어와 기술을 가진 스타트업들을 세계적인 기업으로 키워온 노하우가 강점인 나라입니다. 오늘 더 리더는 세계적인 창업국가 이스라엘의 성공사례를 통해서 한국 스타트업의 발전 방향에 대해 생각해보는 시간을 갖겠습니다. 이스라엘이 창업국가로 도약하는데 큰 공헌을 하신 분이죠. 요즈마 펀드의 창시자인 이갈에를리히 요즈마 그룹 회장님을 이 자리에 모셨습니다. Mr. Igal에를리히, thank you so much for your time, taking time out of your busy schedule. Yeah. How often do you come to Korea?
In the last 2 years, I was here every 2-3 months.
Oh, yeah, very often. Yeah.
Very often, yeah.
So we are honored, especially today, to have you as our 300th guest in our talk show program. Can you tell us what the purpose of your visiting Korea this time is?
Well, you know, as you know, we started a campus about 2 months ago.
Yozma campus.
Yozma campus in Pangyo. And we started to work there. And this is the main reason that for my coming back to Korea to see how to proceed with the campus. I believe we should talk about it a bit later. And also to see the opportunities to raise money for a fund in Korea, which is important for us.
Yozma, I know that Yozma is the leading global venture capital based in Israel. Would you introduce your company, Yozma Fund, to our viewers briefly?
Well, you know, Yozma was a government company started about 25 years ago,
25 years
ago,
yeah.
By the government of Israel. Yozma was a $100 million fund of fund, and also a fund that invests in company. The purpose of the fund was to establish the venture capital market in Israel, which did not exist at that time. So we did this mission. We invested in 10 funds together with partners from all over the world, but mainly from the United States.
Yeah.
All these funds raised in 2 years about $200 million. They were all successful. So after we finished this process, we privatized the fund. And we became, after 5 years, we became a private investment company. Because now we raised more money privately, not from the government. And we invested in more or less up to date in about 50 companies.
50 companies?
And so we are a venture capital fund that raise money from investors, invest it mainly in Israeli companies, and hope for good results.
Good luck. Actually, where did the name, the Yozma, come from?
The name?
Yeah, Yozma.
Yozma is Yozma in English is initiative.
Initiative, yeah.
So, you know, at that time, there was no venture capital in Israel. Nobody wanted to invest because it's a risky business. So we at the government at that time thought that we should take the initiative.
Initiative, yeah, that's great, yeah. Yozma Fund is considered the driving force of making Israel as the startup nation and the successful model of venture capital. Let's talk about this in detail. You are the founder of Yozma Fund. This fund is started to help financing of venture capital, which doesn't have much capital but has an idea or a technology. Would you explain how it is operated and how has it contributed to Israel's economic development?
Well, as I said before, you know, Yozma is a government company, started as a fund of fund.
Fund of fund. Yeah.
Fund of fund. And we decided to do it with some experience, people and companies that already have some experience in venture capital. We approach mainly American funds and we asked them and tried to attract them to Israel. And they agreed, and they came, and this way we did 10 funds. Each one was $20 million size. And we started through these funds to invest in Israeli companies. All these funds were very successful. 8 out of the 10 funds had returned between twice to 14 times the money to the investors.
Oh, great, yeah.
So all this process was very successful, and the government investment through Yozma, which was 40% of the amount of the money, was also successful and returned about 30% on the investment. So this whole process was considered to be very successful from the point of view of financial investment. But what is more important is that because we did it with partners from overseas, mainly from the United States, without even knowing it, we created a network that helped all our companies and investors later. And the network works in a way that I think it's the best way. Why? Because you attract investors and partners who are having interest in the companies they invest in. So once they have this interest, they are going to help these companies. And they have all the connections and the contacts in the US, which a small company is needed. So they take the company by the hand, visit their investment banks, other companies, and help them to grow.
Israel has the impressive culture, I heard. I read book about the chutzpah, the chutzpah spirit.
Yeah.
It's very famous. It's very popular here too. And many people say this culture is the driving force for making Israel as the startup nation. And also, I know chutzpah also affect the Yozma program. So how has the chutzpah affected it, and what is the effect?
Well, you know, chutzpah is a word, an interesting word. It's not exactly Hebrew, but it's close to Hebrew. It's an ancient Hebrew. It's called Yiddish. And many people are using it. I hope you mean the positive way of chutzpah. Chutzpah means to think out of the box, to say what you think, to argue and to discuss if you think you are right, not to be afraid from any failure, not to be afraid to raise your ideas, not to be afraid to fight for your ideas. And that's the Israelis know how to do. For instance, Yozma used chutzpah in a way that we decided that this is the program we want to exercise. And we discussed with ministers. We are not afraid to tell them what we want to do. We were not afraid to tell them that they are wrong if they wanted to take us to another way. So the way, you know, of the chutzpah from one side is not to be afraid to discuss even with people who are superiors. And on the other hand, to try to convince that you are right and do the right things. This is what I call the positive chutzpah.
Israel government has run a startup incubator actively. I heard the idea of the startup incubator was your suggestion, right? Yeah. So how has the startup incubator operated, and what was the result?
Startup incubator started the beginning of the 90s.
90s, yeah.
The main drive for the startup incubation was the immigration from Russia.
Russia, yeah.
At that time, Russia, you remember before the 90s, Russia was closed. People could not get out. So at that time, the gates were open, and many Jews could go out. And they chose to come to Israel. And in 2 years, I think we absorbed about 1 million Jews.
Oh, yeah.
Many of them were educated. So there was the population of Israel at that time was less than 6 million. So 1 million on 6, it's a very strong challenge.
Very big number, yeah.
Yes, very strong challenge. It's a housing, you know, it's a work, employment. And we noticed that many of these people that come are very talented. They are educated in the Soviet education system. So from one side, they very are very good in technology, engineering, scientists, and so on. On the other side, they are used to work according to what we call Eastern business culture, which is not good for Western. Right? So this is why we decided to start incubators, where people with ideas can come.
Mainly for the Russian immigrants.
Yes, but also for Israelis, that people can come, get help from the management of the companies that at that time were more volunteers, people with experience, that were ready to coach these new companies, new people that come. And for that purpose, the government decided to support it with a very high percentage of grants, like 85% of the cost was by the government for 2 years. Since then, the program was developed in a way that it was open to all entrepreneurs, all individuals that want to start a company. And since the beginning, I think up to date, there are about 2,000 companies came out from these incubators.
Oh, great.
You cannot be in an incubator more than 2 years.
So it was
After
very
2 years,
successful,
training, starting your company, you have to go out and raise money from other investors.
Oh, yeah.
So that was the main drive, the immigration. But after the immigration, it stopped, unfortunately, after 2 or 3 years, to be strong as it was. So after that, the incubator continued to work as a place mainly for individuals that want to start companies with their new ideas.
Oh. Small population and land and the lack of the natural resources. So Korea and Israel has a lot in common, but there are lots of difference in terms of startup culture, I think. What is your view of Korea's startups culture as far as you know, and how can we improve it?
Well, I can talk about two major issues that I think I understand what is the situation here, which you can call them culture issues. The first one is what you call the failure issue.
Yeah, that's very important,
which is very important. And the failure is, something which people here don't take it as something which has also positive aspects. And the major problem is, of course, come from the top, what the government and what the leaders are telling to people. Because on one side, you want to be creative, which is, I think, the right way to develop the economy now. So you want to be creative, and in other words, you ask people to take risk. Because if you are creative and you want to do something, which is new, you can fail. So when you ask people and you're ready to give them money for that, you have to take into account that the failure can happen. So if the failure is, it's a fair failure, not anything else, you cannot put a stamp on this failure and say this is your end of the career. In Israel, for instance, you can get money from the government for a project in a company, and if it failed, you still can get another chance.
Oh, yeah.
And if the project failed, the government money is failed too. They don't ask it back, they don't ask anything. So this is the question of how you accept failure. And it has to come with the encouraging risk. You encourage risk, you have to accept failures.
Yeah.
So this is a case of education, telling the people that's the situation. Okay?
Yeah.
The other issue, which is, I believe, you can call it kind of a cultural issue, is that maybe you are not too open for the world. I mean, global. People here, entrepreneurs, and the other people that start companies, look mainly for the local market, which is okay. But in order to be more competitive and to have more chance or bigger markets, and to be better than others, you have to compete in the global market. So there is a need for to push companies outside to try their luck. And I know that recently some government budgets and some government activity is going in the right direction.
Yozma Group announced the plan to invest in over 500 Korean startups which have potential to go abroad. Can you tell us why you focus on Korean startups and how many Korean startups have you invested in and what kind of company do you focus on? Yeah.
We started to look at companies. There are some companies in the campus. We still need to learn more about what kind of companies we can invest in. We still want to raise money. Don't forget that we are venture capital. Venture capital people are people who raise money from other sources and manage this money. So we have to see how much money we can raise and who are the good opportunities in South Korea. I'm positive about it because I believe that Korea young generation is going to be different in a way that we can find much more opportunity than people think. And the market here, as I said before, is still without too many global players.
Yeah.
So I believe that it will happen in the coming years. So it's better to be at the beginning of the new wave. And that is why we are trying to start steps which are leading us to success at the beginning and then to increase it to a higher level. We are, in terms of where we invest, it's a good question always, which means we want to find where are the good companies rather than be focused on a certain area. I think that our strength is more in understanding how to develop companies and how to take them global, rather to be focused on special technology. But naturally, I believe we will do more investments in life science companies, either medical device or new drug development or digital health, and also some trending areas which are in the ICT now, like virtual reality, Internet of Things, smart transportation, smart home, all this type. I believe we will be looking to good people and good technology.
Yeah. As you mentioned earlier, Yozma Group established the Yozma campus in Pangyo in Korea, which started the platform. Actually, it is the first Yozma campus in Asia, right?
Yes.
And I heard that it was incubating space for around 200 companies. So, is it going well? And what is your plan?
Well, we started 2 months ago.
Yeah, just
In the first
to
2
show.
months,
Yeah.
in the first 2 months, it's going very well. So it doesn't mean anything yet. But the idea behind the campus is to try and create in this space what we called a mini ecosystem for startups. So what we try to do is to convince and attract foreign institutions to have a presence in our place. It could be, investment banks, it could be venture funds, it could be a legal office, legal firms, accounting firms, all the ingredients that create the ecosystem that we want to bring from US, Israel, Europe, just as a presence. What we want is that the companies will have the contact to this type of people, can consult with them. And these people that we convince to come in will have, with a very cheap price, let's say, can find maybe good ideas and good companies. So we think it's a good match to create this mini global ecosystem in our place. And once we do it, I believe we will be able to attract good Korean companies to come to our campus, companies that want to go global, mainly. So that is, the purpose of what we are trying to do now in the campus. So we are building it now. And we hope that we will achieve it very soon.
Yeah. As you know, this is kind of the worldwide trend, but here in Korea too, the youth unemployment rate is a bit high, and many young people are frustrated after graduating from university. But some of them and many of them preparing to launch a startup. Some of them have already started their startup. So would you give them an advice, kind of advice or recommendation for many going globally?
First recommendation is if you want to start a company and you have an idea and you have some friends or team, as we call, to do it, don't afraid to start. Don't afraid that people say that you can fail and then it will be not good for you. Don't listen to these people. Just start the company, trust yourself, and try to do the best. So it's very important to find the right team to work with for the development of the new product. I think one of the incubator role is to help these entrepreneurs to find the right team if they don't do it by themselves. Of course, for the government side of this picture, I would suggest to attract more foreign investors into the country. I know they're doing it, but on the other side, I don't see too many foreign funds here or too many investors that are ready to start in Korea, and they have to dig in to find why and what are the reasons and what can they do in order to have more. It's better to have more big companies here, technology companies. I know that some countries, even in Israel, there is a debate whether it's good for the economy or not, because if the foreign companies are coming, maybe they take your ideas out. But all over, if you look at this phenomenon, and at least in Israel, you can see that during the year, it was very positive. I think today we have more than 250 big foreign companies, technology-based companies in Israel, that came to Israel through acquisition of a small Israeli company, continue to develop their technology and expand to be a big company in Israel. And although they may take most of the profits because it's not an Israeli company, still they employ more people, still they pay tax, and still people that start to work there learn a lot, and then they can start their own companies. So I think all over it's a very positive phenomenon. So I think the government of Korea should think about how to attract these big companies here more than they are, to do more, and how to attract investors into the country as well. I think that there are more sources for startups than just universities. So, transfer of technology from university to commercialization is very important. But there are other ways to start companies rather than going out from universities. As an example, in Israel, we have some programs to attract Israeli from US back to Israel.
Yeah.
I believe there are many Koreans sitting in the Silicon Valley and other places with a lot of experience. You have to find ways to convince many of them to come back to their country and to start and help this new wave of startups.
네, 오늘 이갈에를리히 요즈마그룹 회장님 대담을 통해서 우리가 이스라엘의 창업 지원 시스템과 문화로부터 배울 게 많다는 것을 느꼈습니다. 특히 실패를 용인하는 문화와 해외로 나가라는 말씀이 기억에 남습니다. 오늘 대담이 한국의 스타트업들이 경제 성장의 주역으로 부상하고 성장해 가는데 도움이 됐으면 하는 바람입니다. 오늘 출연해 주신 이갈에를리히 회장님 감사합니다. Thank you so much.
Thank you.